Welcome to NuttieBuddie Entertainment.
Okay, Travis, you were so excited. No, Brian, you really wanted to get into the bad. So why don't you hit us up with one bad here?
Okay. I guess let's start with the so Dioxys. So when they are in the waiting for the Trade Federation, they get gassed and all of a sudden he just says Dioxys and they hold their breath the entire time through an entire fight scene. And I don't know if this is a force capability or some sort of meditation training, but that also goes in line of they're on the ship and they use speed force to run away. Now, I know we've had like force pull or push, kind of like, you know, bringing lightsabers to you, but there's been no context of any other like force abilities or anything like that. And just like throwing that in, especially when I was younger, I did not realize they use force speed at all. I didn't realize that until I just watched it the other day. And yeah, I was just like, they just ran really fast. What's going on here? So yeah, I don't know. Some of the stuff that they were throwing in like that, it didn't really, I don't know. You didn't have much context around what they were doing with it. You know, I feel like it would have been better having them start off, you know, in a Jedi temple training or something, showing us that, you know, there are more abilities or something like that. Especially this is the, you know, golden age of the Jedi. So why didn't we see more of that, you know, in this world?
Well, right, and I think with the force speed, which I had like three things that we'll talk about, all three of them, but that I would say didn't age well in Star Wars, like things that this movie did. Force speed is one of them because it doesn't age well in its own movie. So you have force speed, you introduce this new force ability, which is sort of cool, right? Like, you know, because we only have the original trilogy technically at this point to go on, but then like that Duel of the Fates fight, Obi-Wan's trying to catch up to Darth Maul and Qui-Gon. Yes. And like not once does he use it. And I'm just like, what's going on there? Like, why don't you use force feed? And then after that, we never see it again. So that would be like one of those things where it's like plot convenience. And I don't like that. Don't ever like use powers for plot convenience because it's super annoying. You guys know how I feel about that. But like you gotta, if you're going to establish it in your universe, then you gotta use it. Go ahead, Travis.
Ryan, in every Star Wars video game you play, there's a stamina wheel for when you use force. And Obi-Wan used his stamina with his force jump to catch back up so he couldn't use force speed. I didn't have an issue with force speed.
I'm sure George Lucas was thinking of the video games when he wrote that scene.
Just saying.
Well, Travis, he's trying to run to catch up to this fight this entire time, and because he didn't catch up, his master died. It's just like, okay, so you had this ability to start the movie out with, but now it disappeared.
Maybe Obi-Wan wanted Qui-Gon to die, so it was an easier path for him to become a Jedi Knight.
Maybe he's the real villain in this movie. That's a good point, Travis. That's a good point. Okay, yeah, force speed, that was on my radar too, Brian, so thanks for bringing that up. I never even thought about them I just thought they hold their breath long enough. I don't know how long was that scene, like 2 minutes? People can hold their breath like underwater for go ahead, Chris.
In the famous Red Letter Media review of this movie, he has a real problem with this scene, and he's like, why did they open the door after like 2 minutes? Just keep the door shut for like 4 hours and let him suffocate to death and then go in and take care of him.
That's a great point, Chris. Yeah, that's another great point. Spencer?
Yeah, my wife saw this with fresh eyes. I think she's seen the movie maybe twice. So I just heard that scene and they're like dioxygen. I'm like, how horrible of a name. We're in this distant world and that's all you can think of. But so they open the door and they come out and we realize, oh, they're using force hold your breath, or Johnny Weissmuller, the guy who played Tarzan, could hold his breath for 2 minutes, like you said, like Olympic swimmers. Okay. Later on, they're going to Otogunga and they put on their little respirators.
Yes.
And my wife, with her, innocent eyes, no context of Star Wars, is like, if they had to hold if they could hold their breath, why are they now using a respirator? And I want to say because they swam for 10 minutes, but it seems a little. If they had those in their pocket the whole time, why didn't they just pull them out and just chill out in there?
Yeah,
I got what you're
100%.
saying.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, but if it's a respirator, you can't use that to clear out like toxins from this poison. I'm not really trying to argue. I'm not saying like if you wore scuba gear, that's going to protect you from poison, basically. But that's how I compare the two. So I don't think that's what those are specifically for. They're little masks, but you're just not supposed to think about them holding their breath, you guys. Don't worry about it. To your
credit, in the commentary of that movie, they're talking about why in this pod race were all these machines, why would the power coupling split and the engines break up? That's what some people, when they were test screening it, said. And I quote from George Lucas, the more you see it, the more it makes sense, because there's a logic to the science of it. It's like the more you see it and you think about it, it's like, okay, but they don't really explain everything. But I think, that is a problem, because there are certain things where it's like, I don't want to think about this stupid part of the movie for 45 minutes, 23 years later.
Correct. That's a good point. Okay. Let's go with Chris. Give us a bad that you had.
Mm-hmm. I'm sorry. I always do this. So I always circle back. I forgot to mention one other real quick good that I thought. Just another, as you know, I like my good shots. I thought the shot of when the droids are coming into Naboo and there's a shot of the Queen at the window and like the red dress looking forlorn. I thought that was a really well framed shot. So that's good. With my bads, I'm going to kind of just like take my turn and go through these in like kind of order of writing down.
Yeah, Chris, so if you're going to do that, I'll let it. But if somebody has a point, you just look for, them acknowledging that they have a point to add on to your point, okay?
Yeah, no, I'll do one and then I'll shut up until it comes back around to me.
I got you.
My first one is when they're escaping Naboo on the Queen Starfighter and they're flying up to the blockade. First of all, I have a problem with blockades in space because it's an infinite, we're not on a straight line. If the blockade is right here, why don't we just fly this way and go around it?
There's a blockade on the beaches of Normandy because of the turrets.
Okay, but they're flying at the droid ship and they're shooting at them and they get hit and the shields get destroyed, and then R2 and the other droids come back up and fix it, and then they get shields back at full power. But why were the shields not on in the first place? If they would have shields at maximum power facing toward the droid ship. How did a laser bolt blast through the shields and hit the thing and knock out the shields? You know what I'm trying to say? That makes no sense. It's kind of like when the Millennium Falcon is all the fights. It's like, oh, shields aren't going to take one or two more shots. They don't have any dialogue like that. I think the whole shield thing is preposterous.
I think what's going on there is they're further away from the ship. When it gets hits, I think they're using their main cannons. But when they're getting closer to the ship coming in, they can't use those main cannons anymore. And it's more of the firing power that's coming off of the ship. But that's what I got.
Yeah, but I'm saying the shields of the Naboo ship should be on. And they shoot through the shields and knock out the shields. And then they're like, we're sitting ducks.
You probably haven't thought about it long enough is what I'm thinking. I'm sure there's some logic to it. I just think like with anything, with any type of shields, like typically there's so much like power or lasers or whatever that it takes before it starts to break down. Isn't that like a thing in sci-fi? Like that
I
steals.
want to say so. Yeah.
Shields don't just stay up forever. Like you can eventually wear them down where they break. Is that a thing? I feel like that's a thing. Go ahead, Travis.
So from what I'm remembering from the scene, when the droids go out there, so the cover to whatever they're repairing, the shields gets blown off, which you said. And then if I remember, R2 grabs like this part of it. So maybe this is just a theory, but maybe that was like part of the shield that needed to be connected in order to give them their shields in the front again. It's pretty lame if that's it, Chris, so I get it. But I think that's what all it was, really.
Maybe shields are like a Kevlar situation and not like a thick bulletproof glass situation.
Yeah.
And then once the scene is over with, they take R2D2 and like, thank you R2D2 for your service. A little far-fetched. That's a little bit of a stretch to just be like, we all love R2D2, right? Let's get R2D2 in this movie. Yeah, I don't know.
Does he get a medal at the end of New Hope?
No.
There you have it. Just a clip of our podcast when we went over the great, the good, the bad, and the ugly for The Phantom Menace. If you'd like to listen to the rest of the podcast, go ahead and click on one of the links below or look wherever you get your podcasts. Also, please subscribe and like the video. I hope you guys enjoyed, and we will talk to you guys soon.